All right, guys. Well, welcome to the first ever podcast here for the SmileLine design concept. We'll get you guys some professional intros here at a later date, but for right now, we are just kind of testing equipment, and we appreciate you all being here. SmileLine design is a process that we at Huntline have innovated over the past couple of years, and Chris and I are going to be going over that process and that solution really for patients, and telling you guys a little bit about what this podcast is going to be all about. There's going to be a lot of different topics coming over the coming weeks, and we're excited to get all this information. In a lot of the consults, Chris is our version of the Walmart greeter. He meet and greets all of our full arch patients that are coming in to talk about SmileLine options. And so he gets a lot of the same types of questions. And the goal of the podcast series is really to get the information out there on a larger scale so that whether you're interested today, tomorrow, next year, or know somebody that you think might be interested in this service, that they can learn more about it. Because dental implants are kind of it's kind of like hocus pocus. A lot of people, they've heard about it, but when it really comes into the details, you go to one office versus the next, there's a lot of variation. So, Chris, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do for the practice there at Huntline as it relates to our SmileLine stuff.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, Sam. I am the first contact usually whenever the consult patients walk in. And it's, see a lot of patients, but it's surprising because there's really about 5 to 10 general first questions or really like major hurdles that patients have or how they present. And it's exciting to be on this podcast. I think we're going to bring them all up and address them and, hopefully get a lot of good information out there.
Yeah. Chris, like I said, for lack of a better title, as we're trying to name what he does for SmileLine, he is the Walmart greeter.
Yeah.
I think you could fulfill that role, but I'm hoping if somebody shoplifts that you can do a better job than the Walmart greeters actually can.
Yeah, I think I can block the door a little better. Maybe a little quicker on my feet.
I'm going for the quickness. So let's get into those details. Yesterday we actually had a meeting, and we went over the most common things that are really hurdles for patients to get across as they're looking at options to do SmileLine treatment. And by the way, just so we get this out there, SmileLine treatment is when we are talking about replacing the entirety of your teeth. We are not keeping any teeth. We are replacing your teeth with fixed dental implants. Teeth that do not come out. They are permanent prosthetic solutions. And the SmileLine is our proprietary product that we have taken a little bit from this guy and a little bit from that guy over the years as we've learned different techniques and really innovated it into our own workflow and our own type of prosthetic that we feel like is pretty unique from the other things that we've seen in the industry over the past several years. So, we'll go into the prosthetic in detail on a future podcast, but I want to jump right into, a lot of people already have seen our ads for years. They know we replace teeth. So I want to jump right into the hurdles, cost, fear, pain. I waited too long at my consult. I forget what all we wrote down yesterday, but there were a slew of them. So, where do you want to start? You want to start at the top?
Yeah, I got a good one to start. It's a common one where patients present and, they got a lot of issues going on. They're in pain. They're struggling to chew. And they come in and they're like, I want my teeth replaced because I want to chew better. I want dentures.
Oh, yeah. Start with the denture question. Yeah.
Yeah.
Super common that we hear, hey, I don't need those implants. Those are no, I don't need any implants. I just want dentures. And maybe they even know somebody that is a successful denture wearer. Most of them do. Take us through our philosophy on that a little bit.
Well, our philosophy is we want to make the patients better, and we want to predictably make the patients better. And what we have seen with dentures, the outcome is very unpredictable. You might have patient X that can still go chew, eat their steak, eat whatever they want, but that is the minority. So we have a lot of patients coming in. They're like, I know this person, they have a denture and says they can eat whatever they want. Why can't I have that?
Well, I empathize with the patients because it logically makes sense. They know someone that's doing really well with dentures, can bite the apple, can do all this stuff. The problem is that person usually has had dentures for maybe decades at that point. And those dentures, when you've had them for decades, they first of all probably have really good anatomy for dentures to fit and be pretty stable, which the majority of the population does not have. And second of all, they've been in their mouth so long that they've become part of their body. They don't even know. They feel weird when they're out of their mouth. The musculature, the cheeks, the everything. Like when you can wear them that long, like it almost feels weird when it's out of your mouth. And I think it would. I think most of them would report that it does feel weird. And so the big thing there is there's just variations between patient A and patient B on anatomy, number one. And number two, the timeline is totally being overlooked because most of those people that are doing well went through a phase of the first 6 months to a year or even longer where they did not do well. There aren't a lot of people, unless they just had really great anatomy for a denture, that immediately start doing well. That is, I would say that's in the 3% world out of that,
And they've probably forgotten about it too because it was that long ago. So they're not
20 years later, they don't remember.
No, they're just like, yeah, I got these things and I eat great.
Yep. Totally a topic. But our big thing is that, patients are coming in and to be honest with you, the really exciting thing about the SmileLine process is as we have prototyped this thing and massaged it and worked it over and changed it and tried different things and put in new technology and put in old school techniques, we've really harmonized old school processing of dentures with new school, completely digital workflow, 3D printers, milling units, cone beam, the whole gauntlet of technology. And I feel like we were kind of taking the best of both worlds. But as it relates to the denture conversation, is a denture procedure for us at Huntline is the most unpredictable case for us to price for patients. For patient A, a denture case might take us 4 hours of time over a multi-month period to complete. For case B, it might take us 100 hours of time. We've seen people back to the office so many times that we know their dog's name, we know their kid's name, we know the license plate number on their car,
And everybody in the office knows them.
And everybody knows them. And it's not really a great thing because they're always coming with a problem. That's why we see them so much. It's sore again. It's not fitting well. It's popping out. I'm getting food under it. All these things. And so our philosophy is, over time you see the patterns of the type of anatomy and the type of people and the expectations those people have and what you can sort of predict if they're going to be a successful denture wearer or not, right? And over time, as our SmileLine process has gotten more efficient, what we see is that while it cost us a lot more to make a fixed implant prosthetic, the predictability of the timeline of the case is driving the price in our office for dentures to implants closer and closer every single year. I mean, that has never been more true than it is now, which is really why we've taken the stand to where now we barely make dentures. We are for a few cases a year for special situations, but I used to kind of use that as my go-to for tooth replacement, where we would do an upper denture in the snap-on, and now we don't even do that option at all. And it's because so many people just are unpredictably getting served. We don't know if we're making them better or worse, and now we only make decisions on whether or not we're making them better.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I see in the consult is, and I think a lot of times they initially think of that as like, oh, this guy's just trying to upsell me. He's like, I would do fine in dentures. This guy's just trying to upsell me. He wants me to do the implants. And it's not that at all. Not at all.
I got a good one. Let's tell the story of the patient that I taught you this lesson on.
Oh, gosh. That's not a good story at all.
All right, let's tell the story. So here's a really good example of how our philosophy, when I first started replacing teeth, used to start with patient comes in, they want dentures. This is 10, 12 years ago. I've only been in practice 4 or 5 years at this point, and 3 or 4 years. And patient wants dentures, and I said, sure, obviously your teeth need to be replaced. We can start with dentures and go from there. That was kind of the language I used to use a lot. We'll start with dentures and go from there. In other words, if they weren't happy with their dentures, then I could always add implants later. And what I learned was, if you take a patient, you start them with a denture, they pay for a denture, and then later they want to add implants. Then they got to pay for the implants and all the work to do the implants and convert the denture. And then, well, maybe that didn't make them happy either. And then they got to go to fixed, and then you got to pay for all the work to go to that. I mean, you literally paid for the thing almost 3 times, and you spent way more money than you would have if you just made the right decision in the beginning. Yeah. So
because that cost doesn't add on to each other. It's not like, well, if I pay for a denture, I'm halfway to the next option. No, it just doesn't work like that. It's a different option.
Yeah. I mean, you can use the dentures for templates, and they can help you, but ultimately they're going to be thrown away and remade into something stronger and better. So, yeah, let's tell that story. So.
All right. So back to that story is I was in the consult, and patient X comes in. I want dentures. I want to chew good. Pretty familiar story for me, and I go over what they should expect with dentures and how, hey, you're going to really struggle to eat food. Hey, it doesn't matter. I want dentures. Dr. Sam reviews the x-ray and says, man, this guy needs to get implants. His expectation is too high. And I was like, he wants dentures. And he's like, well, he needs implants. We went back in there, patient adamant, dentures, dentures, dentures. So then we did dentures.
Well, and let's talk about why I was adamant that he needed implants, because I'm not nearly always adamant that they need implants. In fact, sometimes I say, like, no, I think dentures will work fine for you. This particular patient had 2 factors that, in my mind, now that I have done hundreds and hundreds of full arch cases, I can see that it's going to be very unsuccessful. Factor number 1 was he had a lot of bone. His ridges on top and bottom were very broad. The bone was dense. Some people, after they get their teeth removed, the bone really resorbs away quickly. And some people, it's kind of more medium speed, and other people, they almost never lose bone, even if it's 30, 40 years later. I think that's a lot related to the genetics that we get from mom and dad. But, so we get these varying situations post-tooth removal. And in his case, fortunately for him, he hadn't lost hardly any bone from the tooth extractions. And so that was creating a situation where, when that's the case, the denture now has to fit into a space that does not, well, God didn't intend it to have anything. All the, when we all have our natural teeth, the space on the outside of the bone is meant to be just that, a space. And so if you're a person that, when you get your teeth extracted, loses no bone width, then the only space the denture can occupy is an abnormal one that's going to, quote, quote, feel unnatural. They feel too big. You've heard all kinds of people with dentures say these kinds of things. That's probably why. So if I were to do a denture surgery for that gentleman, I would have to thin the bone out, literally cut away half the volume of bone that he has. And at that point, making the implants less likely to ever be done, because we're diminishing the bone for him to get a denture that's thin enough that he's actually going to feel good about it. So issue number 1 was just the patient had exceptional good width to the bone. Height and width is what we need for implants. And the second thing was the patient expectation for treatment. This particular patient was a very, he's just a confident, owning the room type of guy. He's a, what do you call that? Like, he's just his dominant figure in his world. He's a dominant figure, and most people that are in that situation, they have a pretty high expectation for quality of life, and his psychological expectation for what a denture could provide was far past what a denture can actually provide. The best fitting denture and the best fitting anatomy for a denture to have good suction, I still don't think it would have made him happy because of where I perceived his expectation to be. And that's the thing patients have to realize. I'm really gauging where the patient's psychology is at, because if we don't make you happy, then it doesn't really matter how good the denture fits. If I tell you, hey man, that denture fits great, but you think it sucks and it doesn't chew anything you want it to eat, well then what's the point? It doesn't really matter, And so our goal is to look at those situations and only offer treatment options that we think will improve a patient's quality of life. And in his case, it was those two factors. It was the width of the bone and the psychological expectation for what the denture could provide just being too high, So, yeah, we go into the consult. Chris says, hey, I really think this guy will be happy with dentures, even though his bone is wide, and you, Sam, you think he has a too high expectation for them. And I said, okay, so you think we should do the case? And what'd you say?
I said, yeah. I had a conversation with the patient, and it was,
a good conversation.
And I told him all the risk factors, and I'm okay with that. I want dentures. I'm okay with that. I'm okay if I want to chew that high, but I'm okay if I don't.
And he made you believe through a good, informed consent conversation, a real life, having a few laughs, getting to know each other conversation, that he understood the risk and was willing to accept them. And based on that, you're like, hey, we should just do what this guy's asking.
Yeah.
Which is exactly how I started, by the way. I'd say, yeah, we'll start with dentures and go from there. Remember, that's what I always used to tell everyone. So,
yeah, great guy. And he convinced me that he would make dentures work, and that's what he wanted. And then so I convinced you.
So you convinced me, and I said, I'll do the case on one stipulation. And that's that if this case goes the way that I say it's going to go, then you don't ask me to do any more cases like this that I tell you this is a bad idea.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So
yep, that's right.
So we take the case and, we do the impressions, we do the try-ins, we do the whole denture process. We make him an upper, lower set of dentures. I want to say we remade him too.
We remade him. Well, the other thing is we found out after we did it is patient had a very bad gag reflex as well. We didn't know that going in because he had natural teeth. But once we started putting any kind of denture in, it just, I need more taken off the back. I need more taken off the back. I need more taken off the back. Well,
yeah, we lose our, the denture, the upper denture really gets its suction by pushing into the soft palate. And the soft palate is where our vagus nerve is. And our vagus nerve is the nerve that gives us our gag reflex. So, it's really it's just one of those things where you can't have one without the other. And that is why so many upper dentures are failed cases, because even if they fit good and suction good, the patient can't tolerate them because it's creating that gag reflex. So they want you to cut that part out, which is way in the back of the upper. But then you cut that part out, we stop pushing into the palate, the soft palate, which takes away the suction.
Yep, then it doesn't fit.
And then it falls out when they do anything, cough or smile big or open wide or do anything like that. And they're not very happy, right?
Yeah.
And everybody knows the lower is even worse, because even with glue, it doesn't stay down for more than usually minutes.
Yeah, and there's no suction down there because you have your tongue occupying that space.
Right. There's no anatomy that can allow us to really get suction. The only people that, usually the people that do well with lower dentures are ones that learn to kind of hold it in with their lip, because their lip goes up above the teeth and they can kind of learn to hold that down. Or their ridge is really narrow and kind of tall. If you have a tall, narrow ridge, which is really uncommon, I'd say 1% to 3%. I've made one denture in all my cases that literally a guy he's so happy with it on the bottom. that he like, I would never offer this guy implants because he's functioned so well with his denture. He would just, unless he lost all that bone and the denture changed its fit, I would never go to implants for him. But yeah, so.
Well, back to so our case, as you can all imagine, you guys know where this is going. I ended up being wrong, of course. Patient.
Right. So we delivered the dentures, and he started to struggle.
Yeah.
Pretty much from day one.
Day one, and I mean, we seen him in the office 8-10 times for adjustments. Remade his dentures.
Completely started over and remade them. Didn't charge him anything else. Yeah. Just we're trying, right?
Yeah.
Like we're doing the best we can and trying to make this work. But again, if patient expectation exceeds the ability of the option we choose to actually reach that expectation, then it doesn't matter how hard you try. It'll never work.
Yeah. And I mean, there at the end, it's, in the beginning it was like, wow, I'm going to chew with dentures. I'm going to be able to do it. And if I can't, I'm okay with that. I need these teeth out. And then you fast forward 6-8 months, we've remade these dentures. We've delivered final dentures. We've seen him so many times for adjustments, and patient is very unhappy that he cannot eat.
Adamantly unhappy, like raising his voice and just not happy, to the point to where, we're like, we don't really know what to do with this guy. Eventually he sent a letter in to the Missouri Dental Board, I believe it was, basically saying we were terrible and he needed his money back. And that's what it was. He was demanding his money back.
Yeah.
And it's one of those situations where there's times in the past where, I feel like maybe we had some fault in it. Maybe our impression wasn't good, or maybe there was, who knows, there was some variable that I felt like we could have done better on. And that's why my philosophy with that stuff, as far as refunds goes, is if I can evaluate the prosthetic and find a way that it could be better, that we could have made it better, then I'll remake it, which is why we have a remake in this story. Mm-hmm. But if I look at it and I can't find a way to say, well, Sam, you could have done better here, then I literally don't know how to fix it. It's, it covers all the prosthetic determinants that we're taught to utilize when we're making dentures. And, if the bite's even and the smile looks good and, patient talks well with it in place, and then we're done. What else can you do? And if you're still unhappy, that is a factor of the choice to do a denture. It's like, hey, I don't need a car. I'm going to walk to work every day. Well, you're going to be unhappy because that doesn't work for very long, hopefully works very close. But, it's kind of, it's a factor of the choice. It's not a factor of necessarily the treatment was bad. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, how that case ended up is, we had people the Missouri Dental Board reviewed the case, and they, determined that we did everything in our power and went above and beyond to try to fix the case. And it was all fine. But like, if you rewind everything, what happened is the patient started with the wrong choice in the beginning. It was just a faulty plan all the way from the beginning.
Yeah. And I always say the number one place we can go wrong is right now. And I'm always talking to the patient at the consult. That is the very beginning. When we make the wrong choice in the beginning, it does not matter how well we do the job after that. It will not make you happy. It just won't. Mm-hmm. So, another big thing we talk about when the patients are bringing up the denture conversation is how well they chew. And my favorite question is, if they don't chew at a 3 of 10 or less, I'm very hesitant to make them a denture. But when they're kind of unsure of how they chew, I say, well, when you go to a restaurant, do you pick what you want to eat off the menu, or do you pick what you can eat? And that is a great question, because it's an easy thing. I've never had a patient that couldn't quickly answer that question. Oh no, I pick what I want to eat. Eat steak, I'll eat steak. Well, then you're not a denture candidate, because we are not in the business of making you worse.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that goes back to
Dentures will not perform that way.
no. And that's why on our intake form we have the question, well, rate your chewing 1 to 10, and then it says explain, and that, opens us up for the question of like, okay, well, what can you eat, what can't you eat?
What we can't have as a business is patients walking out the door unhappy and cases taking hours and hours and hours longer than we estimated them for. Dentistry in this realm is very much like contracting. You bid a job, and you bid that job based on how long you think it'll take you and your employees, the cost of the materials, and then you kind of factor in a little soft spot for unexpected expenses, because there always are some. It is no different when bidding a denture. But when we have denture cases that we can pre-predict that it's just going to be really unpredictable, then we really don't have a way to price that. And when you get into that situation, what we find is it's actually cheaper to do the implants because we're confident we can make you happy.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of implant cases where we've seen a patient for 4 visits, and I can also name a whole lot of denture patients that are still ongoing that are 10, 15, maybe up to 20. And the implant case, the patient paid a lot more for, but the way it should have been is, from a time perspective, the denture case should have been more expensive because they bought a lot more time.
So many times when we've gone back and reviewed our cases, when I hired Chris, I really brought him in to help me, qualify the way we were doing business as right or wrong, and really manage the financial side of things. And he brought a lot of this up to me that, you're actually losing money on a lot of these denture cases because you're spending so much time that even though it costs less to make the denture, you're spending so much time on it that, that time could have been spent performing services for other patients where they were buying a filling or a crown or whatever it is. It's just, you spend so much time on a case, you just don't know how to price it,
Yeah. So, I mean, you look at it and it's like, it's not doing good for the business, a denture case, and the patient, expectation. Yeah, they're coming out of this majority of the time unhappy with the functions of their denture. It's not good for anybody.
Right.
So that's, we get this in the consult, and we spend a lot of time. That's what this podcast is for, is a lot of education.
We don't want people to think like we're not here selling implants because they make us more money. We're here selling implants because it's, in a lot of situations, our only way to make sure we can make you happy. You come to us and everybody wants them to look good. Everybody wants them to chew good. And I will say, I don't really need them to look good. We hear that a lot, but I want to eat my steak. And I'm here to tell everyone that it doesn't cost more to make them look good. If we're going to go through the process and make them look ugly, it costs me just as much as it does to make them look good. So we may as well make them look good.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people undervalue what the looks do for them, especially in our local area as well. But yeah, I think that's a great topic to get out for today's discussion, which is, why can't I just do a denture? And I think we should also put in here that there are times when, hey, I'm chewing at a 1, I'm chewing at a 2. They're already missing a lot of teeth, and we actually feel like a denture will improve their quality of life. And in those situations, we're happy to do a denture for a patient. It's just what we're finding is, unless we feel like those stars align and we can actually predictably improve your quality of life, that it's a lot better for us, it's a lot better for our patients to say no to that denture treatment unless they're in that small percentage of people. So don't think we won't do a denture for you. Just realize that, we want to ensure that we're making you better.
That's right. We don't want you to spend your money on something that you're not happy with and can't utilize.
That you won't even wear.
Yeah.
Sits on, how many dentures sit on people's nightstands until Sunday
or
when they
shirt
go to church.
Pockets. They put them right here and they
church teeth. I've heard that a lot from patients. Hey, you want my church teeth? I brought my church teeth with me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think just to wrap up for today, we're talking about fixed implant prosthetics. The SmileLine Prosthetic is what we make. We use the SmileLine design process. We're starting an all-new company here in Westphalia. Huntline's going to be divided into 2 companies. One's going to be Huntline's, our general maintenance clinic, and the other is going to be SmileLine Design, which is our prosthetic and implant clinic. And we're excited to get that information out to you guys. We'll be building a new website. Be looking for SmileLineDesign.com. For now, we're driving everybody to HuntlineDental.com. And if you like this podcast, Do whatever people do. Where they say thumbs up and subscribe and all that. We don't have
Like and
that done
subscribe.
yet, but like and subscribe, because we're going to bring a lot more of this information out there, and we feel like there is a way to get people the information that they need, including cost, and that'll be coming up. So stay tuned to the podcast to learn more, and we look forward to seeing you guys at the clinic.